Before we get started, let's go ahead and rise, and Dr. Rico, would you please read us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome to tonight's State of the Community Address. Tonight I want to concentrate at the beginning on what I call community readiness. And I want to thank Trinidad State Junior College for the room tonight and everyone for being here. And like I said, my address tonight is about community readiness. 2019 accomplishments, our budget, goals for 2020, and of course challenges that we continue to have, and maybe some new challenges. In my 2019 address, I mentioned the progress that we are making. Tonight I'm reporting that with the public and private investments that were made in 2019 and continuing into 2020, we are well on our way to a brighter future. Trinidad is being recognized across the state of Colorado as a leader in community revitalization. And the reason why I say that is last week our Trinidad Historic Preservation somebody's happy.
Just a couple of, I think they ate the chili. They were coming out of the cafeteria, Phil.
We were in Denver, and on Thursday there was a group of about 600 people that were there. And there was a lot said about Trinidad, and a lady by the name of Jennifer got up to the podium and was talking about Trinidad. And she was saying that, let me back up a little bit. Trinidad in 2000 was placed on the endangered community list. As of last Thursday evening, they took us off that list and put us on what they call in progress, which is actually a good thing because that shows that we are making progress. And she mentioned during her presentation that Trinidad was a leader in community revitalization. So that's why I mentioned that. So we need to be proud that we are making that type of progress in Trinidad. So, it's just that with the help of everything that's going on with everybody, thank you for doing that. It was a good opportunity for me as well that they asked me to do a presentation on Trinidad, which I did, and it was about a 10-minute presentation. So there again, we're making Trinidad, making people across the state of Colorado aware that we are part of Colorado, which a lot of times that's something that we in Trinidad felt like we've just not been being recognized like we should be. So anyway, we're making progress at the state level and across the state of Colorado. What I mean by community readiness is we need to be prepared for the anticipated increase in tourism due to the Space Grade opening that's due this next summer, the opening of our Fisher's Peak State Park, which is slated to have a small opening later this year, and of course a larger opening in 2021. And the reason for the opening this summer is something that Governor Polis, when he designated it as the new state, as a 42nd state park, this past summer, he mentioned to us that he would like to have a partial opening this year sometime. What's interesting about that is that the CU students were here last summer, and they did a study as to a lot of different factors about Fisher's Peak. And their estimates in their study saying that there could be a possibility, this is on the low end, of 50,000 tourists per year coming into Trinidad, with an impact of $3.8 million in revenue for the area. So that's substantial, and like I say, that's on the low end. They actually, I don't have the numbers with me, but it goes up to, if let's say there's 75,000, 100,000 people a year. So, of course, looking at those numbers, you could see where they would go up, pretty dramatically. We are also anticipating that we will become a destination for tourists, which will stay 2 and 3 days, which is what's happening right now. People are coming to Trinidad and they're coming for a day trip. So with this opening, we anticipate that people will be able to stick around for 2 to 3 days. In order to become a destination point, we need to have certain amenities for our tourists. First of all, I think one of the main things is we need to clean up our community, clean our streets, our alleyways, and our buildings. Let's do something with our buildings. For 2021, there is some planning that has begun actually for the 200th anniversary of the Santa Fe Trail. So with that, what I'm doing is I'm asking business owners to fix, clean, and paint, if necessary, the facades, and to keep clean the rear of their buildings. Because one of the things that I've been hearing is I've heard some residents say, you know, we do the front of our buildings okay, but if you look deeper, look at the back of our buildings, they need some work. So that's what I'm asking. Let's do a little extra work to prepare our community for what we are going to have in the near future. By doing all this, what I figure is that it will result in more business and will show the pride that we have in our community. Our businesses and eating establishments will probably have to adjust their hours, maybe their menus somewhat, because from what I understand is that Fisher's Peak is going to bring a lot of biking to the community, and those type of biking enthusiasts may require a little bit different type of food that they want to eat or they like to eat. So that's something that I think that the food establishments may need to try to tweak maybe their menus a little bit. Like I mentioned, that in 2021, the Santa Fe Trail 200th anniversary is here next year. That will bring hundreds of tourists to Trinidad, and like I mentioned, the planning has begun. The event will begin in Missouri, through Kansas, into Trinidad, and continue over Raton Pass. Second of all, we must make Trinidad a safe place to live and visit. Council, in doing this, has approved 3 additional police officers. Police Chief Charles Glorioso said that this will put our police department in good shape as long as we can retain them. Retention of police officers is a real difficult situation, primarily because of the pay scale that we have. So at some point, I believe council is going to have to address that. What's interesting and concerning is complete training for a police officer takes 41 weeks. I think might have this backwards. 20 weeks is in the academy, 21 weeks is in a ride-along with a seasoned police officer before a new police officer is officially on patrol by themselves. So what you're looking at is, even if we got 3 police officers today, it's going to be that 41 weeks before they're out on patrol by themselves. So they're still hampered, but hopefully in the future we'll be able to pick up those additional officers. You know, our police can arrest, but prosecuting, I'll back up a little bit. Our streets, parks, and riverwalk must be adequately patrolled to give assurance to tourists that they are safe. This is not only the responsibility of our police department. Citizens need to step up to the plate and report. Do not be afraid to report an incident. Our police can arrest, but prosecuting and sentencing is up to the DA and the judicial system. When necessary, we will ask for assistance from state or federal agencies to help with crime investigation and prosecution. I would like to have our community known as Trinidad where crime does not pay. I know we're not going to eliminate crime across the board completely, but I believe that we can make some inroads to what is happening so that we can, so people can feel comfortable living here, coming here, staying here for a few days. Captain Duran is working on establishing more neighborhood watches which are beginning to gain attention, and meetings are beginning to take place. And if you go in the back room as you leave, or if you come in, there are 2 neighborhood watch programs that he's working on right now. One is the neighborhood watch, which is residential, and upcoming here shortly, they're going to have a business watch. Another consideration would be to add surveillance, which could possibly, we may have to consider adding more cameras to monitor certain areas. This last year, we put, or I think last year before last, we put in new cameras down the downtown area. Is that adequate? I don't know, but that may be something we may need to look at again. A partner for a drug-free community organization has been established, and Judge Gerbrock, she's here tonight, and I think you were the one that introduced that into the community, and it has progressed. I think it's been the last, 3 or 4 years that this has been working, 5 years. Chief Glorioso and Councilwoman Erin Ogletree, they're going to be the representatives to the city on that committee. And to let you know, about 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, we were in Denver. Councilman Goodall and City Manager Mike Valentine and I, we met with the Attorney General's office, and we mentioned what you were doing. They got very interested, so tomorrow a group of us are getting together at City Hall, and we're going to have a conference call with the Attorney General's office and tell them what we're doing. We don't know what's going to come out of it, but I believe that we could, with the interest that they've shown, I believe that something could possibly happen out of that. Last year, I mentioned that I would reach out to Los Angeles County Commissioners to establish a positive working relationship. I'm happy to report that this collaboration is in full swing. We all agree that by working together, the citizens of Los Angeles County will benefit from this positive relationship. Like I mentioned recently, Interim City Manager Mike Valentine, myself, Councilman Goodall, and all 3 county commissioners traveled to the Capitol. All 3 commissioners and I gave testimony to the Agriculture and Natural Resources Senate Committee for the Fisher's Peak infrastructure funding. So I think that was a very unusual thing for probably that committee to see, where you have council people and have the support from the Los Angeles County sitting in front of them all together, testifying for a project that we feel is really important to our community. So it shows the collaboration that we really have. Excuse me one second. I want to thank the county commissioners who are here tonight, Tony and Luis. They're both here tonight, and thank you for going with us. Appreciate that. Last year, I mentioned that I would ask council for permission to put together a citizens forum group. As of this time, Commissioner Felix Lopez and I are heading this group. The purpose is to get citizens, businesses, and youth from across our city and county to address the wants and the needs of our area, or our community and county. We have been holding quarterly meetings, and we have met 3 times thus far. Each time, this is what's interesting, each time that we have met, education became the main topic, with public safety, medical, recreation, and housing as the other needs. As a result, from the second meeting actually, we met with all the area superintendents and TSJC President Dr. Rhonda Epper to get their views on the area education, about what is working, the issues that each district is facing. And it came out that the most serious issues facing school districts are unfunded mandates, student fluctuation or loss of students in their districts. And one thing that was brought up was getting parental support. And that is something that is very important for the education system. Because I believe that parents today are having a difficult time helping their students with their reports, with their homework. So I believe that maybe that's something that we might want to address in the future. There are 4 major areas that all communities need to concentrate on in what they want to retain and to attract growth. We're talking about medical, recreational, education, and housing. If you look at the medical component of that, we need to have a good medical community to have, I don't care if you're young, I don't care if you're middle-aged, or the elderly especially. They need some good medical, where they can have good medical care. Recreation is necessary for all age groups. Education, of course, is, I believe, a real basis for a good community. Housing, of course, right now we're struggling with housing. Two of the areas that are showing promise at this time is the Mount San Rafael Hospital expansion. And I think the administrator's not here tonight, but I wanted to thank him for moving forward with the expansion. It'll add to our medical capabilities in Trinidad, as well as Mount Carmel. They're continuing to add, they're going to add, I think, a dentistry here opening here in this next month. So we're making some good advances in the medical area, and so that's good to see. With the Fisher's Peak designation and other recreational areas such as our Boulevard addition, the wormhole, fishing, and other recreational amenities, museums, we will be able to accommodate many times of audiences, which would add to the recreational component of what I'm talking about. Our Space to Create program, or our Space to Create, is planned to open this summer sometime. I'm not sure what date, but they are making really, really good progress. Dr. Epper, thank you for being here, and I've met with her, and she's been a blessing to our community. She has got engaged in our community, which is really good to see, and she has a vision for Trinidad State Junior College. And I wanted to say that between the city and the county and the college, those are some major components of our community. And we want to try to begin to work with you to see how we can all work together to bring about what can happen in Trinidad. So thank you for being here. District number 1, they, as you know, they are going to be renovating their middle school, which is a good thing to see. And like I mentioned, of course, affordable housing at this point in time for Trinidad is a serious issue. Council information. We have, of course, 3 new council members. Councilwoman Erin Ogletree, Councilman Frank Hsu, who is not here tonight, and Councilman Aaron Williamson. Thank you for being here. Council selected Councilwoman Karen Rico as Mayor Pro Tem for the next 2 years. In the near future, which is probably going to be toward the end of this month, we've talked about having a retreat so that we can establish goals for the future. It's actually a little late starting. I wanted to do this before the first of the year, but we had some new council people coming on board. So we decided to wait till now to begin to plan a retreat. For probably 2020, we'll probably begin that process and do that maybe in November or December instead of waiting until after the first of the year. You know, I will continue to travel the state capital and other areas of the state to raise awareness of our progress and to continue to raise our hand and say Trinidad is here. And we want to be recognized as part of the state of Colorado. I will also encourage other council members, staff, boards, and commissions to do the same. And I want to thank Mr. Goodall for going to Denver with me a couple of weeks ago. Ms. Ogletree was going to go as well, but because of something else that she had going on, she was not able to go with us. And of course, Michael Valentine went with us as well. We now have a dedicated economic development director, who is Wally Wallace, and his job is to encourage new business. And one of the things that had been brought up a couple of years ago was business gardening. And what we mean by business gardening is, if we look at the businesses that we have now in Trinidad, to reach out to them and say, how can we help you to expand your business? Through the SBDC or through maybe anything that we can help with them. Because if we can get many of our businesses to at least hire one extra person, that would really help our community. So that would help them to expand their business as well. And of course, he needs to be searching for new businesses. And I think small to medium-sized businesses is what we could probably at this point in time work with, because if we got a large, humongous business, we just don't have the potential for housing and some of the other amenities that would be required. So I believe with that we are in a prime condition for new business establishment. Like I said, one area of great potential, of course, is Fisher Peak. Recreation in the state of Colorado is a billion-dollar industry. With the opening, we should be able to get businesses that are selling and or manufacturing outdoor recreational equipment. And I've heard that some of these type of businesses are already interested. And Rusty, I'm not sure if you recognize this, but when we were up in Denver and we gave our presentation, there was a gentleman there that had a business of some sort. And he sounded like he was very interested in what's going on here in Trinidad. So might try to tap into him to see if he's interested in putting a business here in Trinidad. So those are the type of things that we need to do. So this Fisher's Peak designation, I think, will do a tremendous amount for the city of Trinidad. The city of Trinidad has also retained, like I said, an economic coordinator, which is Wally, an event planner, and a safety manager. Some financial information. Financially, we are in pretty good shape. We received an unqualified opinion audit for 2018 by Dixon Waller. Dixon commended Cheryl and staff on how well they put together the necessary information for a smooth audit. In 2019, we originally budgeted $51,149,275 and ended up adjusting that budget in December to $51,917,636. Even though we had to make an adjustment, we were fortunate that due to the sales tax increase revenue that we received, that exceeded the adjusted amount. So that really helped out. So we had a really good increase in tax revenue. Sales tax and use revenue increased in 2019 over 2018 as of November by 8.4%. So we've got a good increase from last year. Cheryl is still working on some of the numbers for December. 2020 sales tax projection over 2019, she estimates to be at 7.7%. Our 2020 budget is set at $49,947,605. And you might be kind of wondering, okay, why was there a decrease for 2020 versus 2019? The reason being is we had a metering project that is going on in town that we're installing new meters. That was about $4 million that we had to put in last year that we didn't have to put in this year. We have adjusted our cannabis allocation from the 60-30-10 to 65-30 and 5. What that means is it's a breakdown. 65% of the revenue are for projects, 30% is saved for a rainy days in a rainy days reserve fund, and 5% goes to nonprofits. And I believe in the back room, before you leave, if you want to pick up a copy of that distribution, it's back there as well. The cannabis 5% that we have collected for 2019 as of December has been $3,716,000. Each year has continued to increase. We projected, or actually Cheryl projected, that we would be at 3.5. So looks like we're going to be at 3.7. So like I mentioned, pick up the 2019 first, second, and third quarter distribution sheet that's in the back. Council will be considering the fourth quarter distribution this next Monday in our work session. Our cannabis reserve fund to date is about $2.5 million, that's our rainy day fund. And and Cheryl has indicated that this amount could come in even a little bit higher than that. The state of Colorado allows cannabis consumption clubs which begin in January 2020. Council has had some concerns about consumption clubs and has decided to put a moratorium on consumption clubs at this time. Fund investments. Council has authorized a reinvestment in our investment policy to get a better rate of return on all our investments. We anticipate that we would receive through this change that we will get $50,000 more in 2020 than we did in previous years. One major area that we have a concern about is our utility delinquency rate. As of December the 31st, the delinquency rate on our utilities is $270,000. Due to this problem, council has authorized the utility department to cut off utilities after 30 days. Because of our new metering system that we're implementing, we plan to begin this cutoff time beginning in June of this year. It might extend a little bit more, but that is a very big concern. $270,000 will do a lot. It'll help pay for more policing, it'll help do some other stuff for the community. I know we're not going to collect all of it, but I think we can make some inroads. Capital improvement project funds is budgeted this year at $9 million, $9,118,271. Our 2019 capital improvement projects was at $7,900,514. City employees have received a 3% raise beginning in 2020. So that is the basics of what council is facing there. Accomplishments for 2019. The citizens approved, and I want to thank you for a 1 cent capital improvement tax that was renewed, which will go into up to 2026. We also began building a Noah's Ark facility, a new one. New bathroom facilities on Commercial Central Park, a bath facility at Monument Lake. Citizens approved a charter change where landfill is now an enterprise fund, similar to all of our other utility funds. Some water and sewer infrastructure projects were completed. We also entered into a development agreement with Urban Neighborhoods, which is David and Crawford, for the renovation of the Fox Theater. We were able to complete the renovation of City Hall in the lower basement area. The completion of the pedestrian walking bridge, which is right behind Safeway. We also had to take care of at the North Lake, which is an intake conduit repair. Tennis court improvements at the golf course. Construction and implementation of automated meter infrastructure project. Southside baseball complex renovation. Old Sopris Trail segment and the Boulevard addition. Convent Street improvements, and ADA expenditures of $402,614. ADO, which is our anti-dilapidation ordinance, is an ordinance that eliminates blighted buildings or blighted homes or buildings down the downtown area. At the end of 2019, 10 properties were remediated. 4 of them were by owners and 6 by the city. And I don't have the total, but since this was put together in 2016 or 17, there have been multiple buildings that have been taken down. So we're making some headway, but there are still a lot of old buildings that have to get remediated. The most prominent 2019 accomplishments were, we began, of course, construction on the Space to Create project, creation of a business improvement district for the La Puerta development, and the Fisher's Peak project, which was designated to be the 42nd State Park by Governor Polis. I recently just estimated that approximately $100 million has been invested in Trinidad in just the past few years. That's a pretty big number for what's been invested. With everything that has been accomplished and what is coming, we cannot get complacent. Inspiration and perspiration will continue to move us forward. And I really seriously mean that, because we need to continue to have a vision for what we want to do. We have council has to look forward to what we want to try to do. And that's why I say that's the reason for our retreat, so we can establish a vision for tomorrow for you, the citizens of Trinidad. Later this month, like I mentioned, council will have a staff retreat with council and staff. What we're going to do there is council will ask staff to work on establishing a 5-year capital improvement project. You know, currently we have a 5-year plan, but it's just pretty basic and generic. What we need to do is we need to get specific and identify particular projects so that citizens can say, what street is going to get fixed next year? What infrastructure is going to get fixed next year? is this project on the list? They'll be able to at least identify what the project is for the next 5 years. It'll make it very easy for staff to be able to, after year one is over, to roll into to year 6. We know that a project or a plan like this is something that will change and could change during the course of the year because things happen. But at least we will have a designated plan to work on. A strategic plan for the following departments should be established for the power and light, water, gas, landfill, public works, street and bridge, fleet, IT department, parks and rec. What this will do is allow management to monitor how these departments are conducting regular maintenance. Because we do get questions from citizens asking, why is this not done? Why is this not done? So this will allow management to be able to say, to have something in front of them, and council will be able to know what projects need to be done on a regular scheduled basis. Jacobs, of course, is contracted for the upkeep of our sewer plant, and they give us yearly reports. We will continue with our anti-dilapidation program. We will continue to market Trinidad. And one thing that we are working on is reinstating our Welcome Center funding from the State Tourism Commission. We lost the money a couple of years back, and we are working. That was one of the reasons that we went to Denver. We met with the tourism, actually not the tourism director. We met with the JBC. Chairwoman, Ms. Esgar, and we brought to her attention that we would like to try to get reinstated in that for the tourism money, the fund that we lost, and that was about $65,000 that we lost. So we're going to try to work on getting that back. We will work on the water leak and road repairs on Santa Fe Trail, looking for Main Street, and I believe, Mike, that's to Jefferson, is that correct? Adams Street. So that's on our agenda to take care of. We're going to be working on our land use code. This next Monday, council will be having a work session to work on the land use code, and of course we'll come in front of council for to move that forward. We'll also consider additional funding for Noah's Ark because they have a shortfall for completion. We do want to fix more potholes in the roads. And one of the biggest problems I have with potholes is people are asking, why are we waiting till wintertime to fix potholes? Why aren't we doing it in the summertime? So I think that's something that I was mentioning about regular maintenance, that if they have a strategic plan to follow, we know when that should be happening. And being that I am the Southwest Chief Amtrak Commission, I will continue to work hard on making sure that Amtrak and the Southwest Chief continues to run the Trinidad. That is an uphill battle right now because the feds and Richard Anderson, who is the CEO of Amtrak, is fighting against us right now. However, we do have support from our local and our state and our national legislators. So we're going to try to work hard on trying to continue to make sure that that continues to Trinidad. We have begun to work with the Los Angeles County Commissioners, Los Angeles County Assessor, Los Angeles County Treasurer to see what needs to be done to be able to market Cougar Canyon to potential investors. That, as you know, we get a lot of questions on that. What the heck are you guys doing about Cougar Canyon? A couple of weeks ago, we had a work session with the commissioners and the assessor and the treasurer's office to see what the next steps are. And we have developed a next steps program. I'm not going to go into it now, but we do have a plan in place to how to progress with that and see if we can come up where this can be remarketed to maybe another investing group, because I think there's great potential out there. Our challenges, of course, is our infrastructure, which is a multi-million-dollar challenge. And I think I've mentioned it the last 2 years that I gave my speech here, that a couple of years ago, talked with Mike and asked if we were to somehow be able to come up with the money to do all of our infrastructure in the city, what would it cost us? At that time, he estimated, around $100 million. It's a big number, but we need to begin to work on it a little at a time. And that's the reason for our capital improvement project plan moving forward. Crime prevention, of course, is on everyone's mind, and that's why the project, like Judge Garbrock is working on, and other things that the Chief of Police is working on, the Sheriff's Department, they're all working together to try to see what we can do about the crime prevention in Trinidad. And the county, of course. Opioid addiction, drug addiction, is a big contributor to the crime in Trinidad. That's probably, I'm not sure what that number is, but it's probably the major contributing factor. Homeless is, of course, is the issue that everybody asks. And it's kind of like we almost throw up our hands and say, we can't really do anything. Because they have a constitutional, they're protected by the Constitution. I think it was in 2019, there was a bill put forward to try to keep the homeless from camping or sleeping on public streets and public areas. It was passed through, but then it was taken to appeal. It's an appeal process right now. And I'll tell you what's happening. I was in Denver a while back. And however many of you have been to the state capitol, there's a pretty good set of steps going up on all four sides of the capitol. But I was happening to go up on one of the steps. And laying there, it was 24 degrees in the morning, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. And there were two people that were sleeping at the bottom of the steps. One lady was there covered probably from her knees up. Her legs were touching the cement. So if this goes into appeal, we may have homeless people sleeping on our front steps of our city hall, our county courthouse. We just don't know. But I just want to bring that to your attention because that's a concern that everybody has. What about the homeless? Our ADA, Department of Justice lawsuit, we get hammered on that all the time. You know, we have money to put forward to fix some of the curb cuts, some of the other things that we need to do to come up to the ADA. But according to Public Works, the biggest problem is we are having difficulty getting bids from contractors. There are just not enough contractors in our community to even bid these projects. So it's not surprising that any major construction that's going on in Trinidad, and even across the state of Colorado. I talked to several people across in other areas when I go to Denver, and we're all faced with the same issue, finding people that want to even bid projects and completing those projects on time. Housing, like I mentioned earlier, is a major issue, but this is something that we are going to have to look at to see what we could do. Can we get, there again, can we find somebody from out of town that will come to town that will build condos and will build townhomes? I don't know. But this is something that I think that we need to, council, I think we're going to have to address that somehow and see what we can do. Economic development, of course, like I mentioned, to try to find small to medium-sized businesses to locate in Trinidad. And of course, with our new economic development coordinator, that will be his job to try to do that. Cougar Canyon, like I mentioned as well, that's another challenge. And of course, I mentioned how and why we are trying to work through that. So those are the major challenges that we have. There are other challenges that we get all the time, but those are the major ones. In closing, the citizens of Trinidad have a city council, an interim city manager, Mike Valentine, dedicated staff and volunteers that work hard to keep everything running smoothly. We get complaints that sometimes things are not working the way they should be, but I can assure you that staff is working hard for you all the time. And I want to thank them at this time for what they do. So those people, those staff members that are here, would you please stand up to be recognized? I recently read a quote from Ralph W. Stockman on unity. And this is what he said. There are parts of a ship which, taken by themselves, would sink. The engine would sink, the propeller would sink. But when the parts are assembled, they float. So think about Trinidad and where we're at. Thank you. Any questions? I'll take questions. Yes.
Yes, I'm curious, because it seems to go against the idea of economic development and helping businesses. What's the reasoning behind having a moratorium on cannabis clubs?
Because we're not really sure the effects that it will have, not only to the, depending if we were to put a business like that, where it would be placed. What kind of effects would it have on the police department? Let's say they get called in, that they have to go in and they walk in and this place is full of smoke. And tomorrow, those police officers, they get called in to get a UA. That's one of the issues. You can lose a police officer. So there's that, and there are some other issues that go along with that, and we just have some concern, and we're gonna have to work through those, to see if we even want to establish them at some point in time.
So hasn't
May I
the state
comment?
recently passed a rule that cannabis will not be used as a drug testing criteria for employees in this state?
That I don't know, and I'm not sure if our council back there has an answer to that or not.
Well, I'm not sure, if it's in this legislative session, I don't think it's probably been passed yet. Since this is, thank you, Councilman Lopez, but, I don't believe that there's anything that has been passed by both houses of the legislature and signed by the governor, since it is only February.
Well, what about using personal protection gear like firefighters would use going into a fire if that's your primary concern against that type of business?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but these are all considerations that we have to take into.
So is this a limited moratorium? Do we have a certain time period in which you'll-
There's no, there's just an unlimited moratorium at this time until we reconsider. Go ahead.
May I comment to this? So we are working with the governor's task force on marijuana. So what we've asked for is a better explanation and working with him of how this is gonna work, what their plans are, the implementation. They've showed an interest in possibly having a pilot program, possibly in Trinidad. So we're waiting mainly to get with the governor's office and the marijuana task force to get a better idea of what they're gonna lay out, how the programs are gonna work before we just jump in like we did with the marijuana, so that we have a full set of plans in place to address all the concerns. So that's the reason for the moratorium and where we're at on this. We are working with the governor's office and their marijuana task force.
Is there a problem I'm unaware of about how jumping into pot caused issues?
I'm just saying, once you open the doors, you find a million things that are there that you wish you would have had in black and white ahead of time.
Let me give you some good examples. When marijuana was legalized, and Trinidad was Colorado was the first. Trinidad jumped in, legalized it, and I've been on council now for 4 years. And it just seems like every now and then something new pops up, and it's uncharted waters right now. And adding this to the mix is more uncharted waters, and we're going to have more, because in 2021 they'll be able to deliver marijuana as a service. So there are a lot of things that going to get into this mix that we don't know how it's going to come forward to us, and the issues that come with them as well.
Well, I mean, when the police currently like to go to a house and there's been smoking inside that house, isn't that exactly the same type of issue? Not quite an unknown. There are officers, I imagine, by doing their job are being exposed to pot smoke.
Well, if you look at the amount of smoke that would be maybe in a home versus in a smoking club, would probably be tenfold.
Thanks, I'm sorry to
It's okay.
interrupt. Consumption and cannabis is completely different. You don't have to comply with clean air standards and regulations when you're smoking pot in your home. But one thing I want to say about the cultivation clubs and one of the problems we have, it is a new license type. That is, if a community is going to allow a consumption club, then people are allowed to sell marijuana in the consumption club. That's very hard to regulate, as opposed to, say, a retail marijuana store where there are cameras everywhere, Department of Revenue compliance. It's very easy, relatively easy to enforce
compliance rules and regulations. Not so easy in a cultivation club, a consumption club, if you're allowing people to sell marijuana to be consumed on the premises. Does that make sense? So that's one of the areas that's really hard to regulate in terms of if Trinidad were going to lift the moratorium and allow these kinds of clubs to go forward.
And
How's
there's
it
no-
different than a bar?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if the state is saying it's legal, then how can you say you're concerned about the legality or the enforcement or the regulation of it?
Because, first of all, if you're having a consumption club, you're automatically ensuring people being impaired by marijuana. Are people impaired by alcohol at a bar? Certainly they are. But generally speaking, people can control their level of inebriation or intoxication if they're drinking in a bar and they mindfully consume alcohol. Not so easy with respect to consumption of marijuana.
So you're saying you've never mindfully consumed pot?
No, I'm not saying that.
Well, I'm saying
just
people
saying-
can be irresponsible with any type of
No,
drug.
I
I don't see how all these
it's
what
so-
ifs and maybes are reasons for this.
This conversation going way too singularly and too one-sided. Let me first say that the marijuana is still a Schedule I controlled substance in federal statutes. So we're having to regulate the will of the people of a few states who have chosen to legalize recreational and medical marijuana. And we are trying to tread slowly and cautiously, as we tried when we opened the city for the sale of medical and retail marijuana. We had a moratorium then. We were waiting for the state for some direction and guidance as to how we might be able to do this and yet be in compliance with federal regulations.
Well, how can we be
Well,
in compliance with federal regulations when it's illegal according to the feds?
When I started with the control in 1977, to the point at the beginning, my FTO class was, my training class was 12 academy weeks and 4 weeks FTO training. When I got out, my first sergeant gave me a lot of platitudes that were helpful in the course of my life. One of the first things he told me is, Matei, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. That should tell you something. The second thing he told me is, Matei, you cannot learn anything talking. So my point here is I'm trying to impart on you what I understand how we have done it, how I have done it, and voting to support marijuana was a big pill for me to swallow when I sat on city council and voted yes, recognizing the financial benefits to our community. All of the stuff that he described, a large part of which would not have happened. What I'm trying to tell you, and you're refusing to accept my answer,
What answer?
this is that it's a federally regulated commodity. We are working in not the strictest compliance with that. We're treading on on thin ice, as I understand, in a lot of things. We don't want to open up the city of Trinidad to more than it already has in its share of the marijuana industry. And that all having been said, we put a moratorium, as Councilman Goodall has tried to explain to you, so that we could be more deliberate, more conscious about what we're doing, so that we take advantage of the benefits of clubs that allow for that consumption, and we don't have to put up with all the negative things that could be to our detriment. I hope that's a satisfiable answer to you.
Let's do this.
But I don't want to be
Let's-
argumentative with you. It
Let's,
seems like if
okay,
I don't
let's,
shut up,
let's
it's
go ahead and
okay.
go on. And I just wanted to mention this, is that, like Mr. Goodall mentioned, is that we're also waiting for the state to come across with some additional information for us. Until then, council will not move on the moratorium until we can get a good understanding as to what we can and cannot do. Any other questions? Yes,
Mayor Rico, I think I asked you this last year, I'm gonna ask it again.
sure.
With the numbers that you're stating of potential visitors coming due to Fisher's Peak, what is the city going to do about traffic? Specifically, Main Street, commercial, we have a town that runs parallel to I-25, a river, and the railroad tracks. I'm wondering if there's been any type of study or what is going to happen when tourists, campers with their camping equipment and their trailers, motorhomes, have Main Street pretty much, blocked up end to end.
That's a legitimate question and a concern. And we will put that down for one of our retreat questions and things that we'll talk about when we have our retreat.
I think Commercial Street is one of the most difficult routes into downtown Trinidad. And I understand, you know, when we had our previous planning director, that it was all approved, and on paper it looked good. But in reality, it is not. It is very dangerous. The narrowness, the large vehicles, the clogging of the streets. On Main Street, we saw this last summer, it's bumper to bumper.
No taken, we'll discuss that. Yes, ma'am.
Having been through some of Laura Crawford's, Dana Crawford's, properties through Denver, and how they took these old, what used to be brick roads and made it into what we have today. They transferred them to one-way streets. I've lived in Boulder when there's more congestion with the cars, and it being that narrow, it does get very difficult. And my vehicle's not that big, and I don't even like driving on Commercial.
So I'm
So I was
not
backing
sure-
her up.
So I'm not sure what your question is.
I'm backing her up.
Oh, okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Rico, for your comments tonight and for representing Trinidad outside the community really well. I thought your speech last week at the Colorado Preservation Inc. Was especially great as we were taking off the most endangered list place. And I just wanted to first express my gratitude. I've been in the community for just about 6 months, and it's been an incredible welcome, and including being welcomed into the nonprofit boards community. And one of the things that I've heard a lot in my 6 months here is that there's a big need and a will for young people to participate in those groups. And I just wondered if you had any thoughts, about how young folks can get involved right now, what opportunities there are, and what the city would like to see in terms of participation on the boards and commissions going forward.
In our boards and commissions, the only board and commission that we have that you need to be a citizen of Trinidad is our planning and zoning. There are a lot of openings that come up all the time with our many boards and commissions. So we do have some openings now. So anybody who is interested, they can call Audra and see what openings are available, put in an application, and they bring it forward to council, and we give you the stamp of approval or not. So, but that is one way. But there are a lot of other organizations in Trinidad. You know, you have the Kiwanis, you have the Elks Foundation, you know, the Elks, you have the Trinidad Community Foundation, you have the River Anglers. You know, there's a lot of different ways that you can get involved in. You know, there's the youth club that you can get involved in. There's a myriad of areas that you can get involved in. Schools are constantly needing, I think, help in different ways. So even the college might need help. Or you might talk to Dr. Epper, say she might put somebody to work. But yeah, there are a lot of ways that young people can get involved.
Can I speak to that a little bit? When we attended the meeting for the Santa Fe Trail 200, we had a whole group from the junior college, some students that came, and it was refreshing to see younger adults there interested in and participating. So it's great to see that starting to happen. Like the mayor said, there are a lot of organizations, volunteer stuff that could use some help, and that's a good way to get out in the community and get started.
You know, there are a lot of projects and a lot of things that come up. One of the things is the Water Festival that's coming up, and that's put together by Tom Perry, and they're always looking for volunteers. And they get, I don't know, last year they got 1,200 to 1,400 students from around the area to come and participate. So it's just, there's ways to get involved, put it that way. So anybody who wants to get involved, just speak up. Questions? Yes?
So this is my first winter in Trinidad, but I've lived in Kansas, I've lived in Wisconsin, I've lived in Illinois, and I have to say that Trinidad has the worst icy road conditions that I have seen. I can't say that I've seen more dangerous roads in my entire life, my short life. I can't count the number of times I've seen cars slide across stop signs, and you know, there's massive piles of snow left in the middle of the road through Main Street that when the sun comes out, because y'all have a powerful sun here, when the sun comes out, it starts to melt that, and then you have a sheet of ice across the road. Is there any discussion about this? Is there any plan to improve the snowplow services that we have? Because I'm scared to go to work in the morning.
Let me tell you what our road and bridge department, they do. And I think they do a pretty decent job. And I know that icy conditions, like we've had the last few days, have been pretty ugly. But it's not unusual to have those this time of the year. These guys, they are up in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, trying to grade some of the roads. And one of the problems that exists is that, and they have to get up early because later on in the morning, employees and other people start parking downtown, they clog up the streets. So they do a pretty decent job as far as trying to clean those streets. The other thing is they have particular routes that they have to work on, the hospital, the school areas. What other areas, Mike, that are primary areas that they clean first?
Well, we have our emergency snow routes throughout town, with the schools, hospital, downtown. Part of the problem is our terrain and our brick streets.
Right.
So with the brick streets, I know everybody looks at the highway and says, wow, look at the highway. Well, they have a steel edge plow that is able to scrape it down to the asphalt. With the brick streets, if we use a steel edge plow, we're gonna peel all those bricks up. So we have a rubber edge on that. I think our crews do the best they can with the equipment they have. And if you notice today, all the snow was picked up. So we have to use the same trucks to pick up the snow. So we have to plow down and take the sanders off. I know this is a long, so it's Colorado. We get snow and we do what we can.
Well, one of the things too, especially in the downtown area, is, the buildings and the way the sun sets and rises. The sun doesn't hit very much, so that's another major problem. So, and you get people coming through town at the beginning of probably 6 o'clock in the morning, and if there's even a couple of inches of snow or half an inch of snow, it starts compacting that right away. And then you get a little bit of sun, like you mentioned, it melts it, people run over it, and it's hard to take that ice off the top. And it's impossible, because one of the things that we have, and if I'm correct, Mike, is that because our brick streets, we have to protect our brick streets because of what it was designated several years ago that we have to protect them.
Yeah, with the historical society, we've had.
Protect our brick streets, so we've got to be careful with that.
Yeah.
Heather, Mike?
May I make
Sure.
a statement? I wasn't on council at the time, but several years ago, my husband and I were involved in the talks about the renovation on Commercial Street specifically, because our business is there. And what we were told at the time is they wanted Commercial Street specifically, but also Main Street to be walkable. That small communities like ourselves have a better chance of getting people to get out of their cars and walk the streets when they're attractive, and they're more friendly to pedestrians rather than trucks. Mrs. Lackey's statement, really large trucks and campers and trailers should not go up Commercial Street.
Right.
And by experience now, we've noticed that they've stopped. So I think what we're gonna have to do as a city is try to find out where we can put parking lots that aren't in the main area of the city for campers and trailers and big rigs, so they can get out of those vehicles and walk downtown. The unique thing about Trinidad is it's historic. The problem about maintaining Trinidad is it's historic. So some of you weren't around when the brick streets were a question. And some people love them, some people hate them. But you gotta learn how to drive on them when it snows, that's for sure.
Well, and if I can make just one last comment, and then I'm fine, but, I'm from Wisconsin, I know snow, I'm not unfamiliar with snow. It's actually the neighborhood streets where I see the most issues, and I'm most scared, because people are very often running through those stop signs because of the ice, and I'll see some streets where it seems like it's been cleared fairly well, and others where it doesn't seem so. I'm absolutely not criticizing our snow plowers.
No.
I know they definitely do what they can with the equipment they have. I'm just wondering, I mean, is there any way that we can improve the equipment they have, or can we hire more people? It seems like it's very, very dangerous.
Well, you know, I gave you numbers on our budget, and even though that budget is large, seems large, when we start taking money here and money here and money here, pretty soon you're down to, okay, what's more important? Letting our streets, hiring more police officers for your safety. So these are the things that we have to juggle, and it's just this. We have a very limited amount of resources, and I wish we could hire more people to go out and more street officers. At this point, this can be.
You know what's interesting is I watch the Denver channel. They have the same complaint up in Denver as you have right here. It's just, we just do not have the manpower. But I want to give you an example of something. So when you mentioned the East 100 block at East Main Street, my husband and I noticed we were going to work the other day that pile in the middle of the road was causing a lot more problems than it should be. I mentioned it to Mr. Valentine. He mentioned it to the Road and Bridge Department. And if you notice today, those piles. So it's like you got to realize there's a problem before you can fix it. So just to give you an idea.
Nancy, did you have another question?
I was gonna piggyback on what Karen said, and that is, we do need parking lots. I understand who owns the property behind Marty Feeds across from Philong. I think that would be a perfect parking lot for big motorhomes, enough that you could maybe get some relief on Commercial and on Main Street if there was parking in and near the entrance from Commercial coming in. Now on Main Street, that's a whole nother issue because there doesn't seem to be an abundance of land for them to pull onto.
And there's a possibility there, and I could talk to you later on that.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I know you mentioned something about the infrastructure, and in the infrastructure, is power grid part of that? And like that because that's one thing that I've noticed is it seems like there's a lot of power outages. It's like, and they're like very, very sporadic, and it's like, and they get back up again very quickly, but there's a lot, and I don't know if there's an issue or if that is something that's going to be looked at or like improved or.
Well, it's going to have to be looked at because that's all part of infrastructure. You're talking, you have power to the town, you have water, gas. Matter of fact, we just did a major project on First Street, and they started it. We had designated X number of dollars to do the project. Halfway through, other issues came up, collapses of old lines, so then they had to come back to us and say, we need more money. So, but the power grid, all those other infrastructure items, they will be on the table as far
May I
as.
comment on that also?
Sure.
Phil? So we do purchase our power, so we do not generate our own power. So some of the outages may be due to our infrastructure, but some of these outages will come from our providers also. So that does play into it.
What we do is whenever we have a power outage locally, we have a backup generation system at the power plant. Years ago, we used to have a regular power plant, but that became to the cost to the point where we couldn't afford it anymore. But we do have a generator that we use so that there might be a short time by the time that kicks in to regenerate power. Yes, ma'am.
We've been discussing parking a couple of times. I'm curious, on either of the new projects for Space to Create, was parking considered in the building, or is that all off-street parking that people now have to find parking?
For those people, those people that will be living there, it's going to be off-street parking.
And how many?
On Main Street, there's going to be 17 units. On Elm Street, there's going to be 27 units.
There's off-street
All
on Main
off-street.
Street.
No,
for
there's
14.
two parking lots. There's a parking lot for each location.
Yeah. So each one has a parking lot of their own. Yes.
Oh, I've got two questions here. One on infrastructure, capital improvement. You said there's over $9 million there. I was asked today by someone concerning the transmission line from North Lake down to water treatment. When is that project gonna start? Do we have a start date on that?
We don't, because like I said, these are all considerations. That's why I say we need to have a capital improvement project plan in place so that we could begin to say, in such and such a year, we're going to work on this project. That particular project is going to probably be somewhere in the $15 million range, at least. So what's gonna happen with that particular project is we may have to go out and ask the citizens for a bond issue on that. Because we just don't have that type of money to put into immediately.
And note that that is one of our newer lines that we have. So when we're talking about replacing water lines, that one is newer than a majority of the stuff we are replacing.
There are some sections of that line that have been fixed, so it's kind of like here and then here and then somewhere else.
Okay, and then the next question I've got is the retreat. Is this gonna be open to the public to come in and sit down and maybe
Anytime
participate?
that council, there are more than 2 council members at any meeting, unless by chance that they're at an event of some sort, it has to be posted. So you're welcome to come.
Well, everybody, I mean, you know, this is, we're talking about the city, things the city needs to get done, you know, the public input is just really important in something like this.
I'm not sure how much input we'll get from the community, but if people want to come, but I know that Tom will probably be there, you know, videoing it as well. Okay. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the opioid and the homeless situation we have in our community. So my question to you is, have we reached out to programs or research programs that can assist those who want to be assisted, that we could bring to our community?
There is one program that is out there, and Mr. Lopez is not, Commissioner Lopez is not here tonight. But
He's
he
right
has.
there.
The other Lopez.
The other one.
The other Lopez.
The other one.
There is a Senate bill, I forget what it is, that came around last year. And because it's more county related, he was working with the state of Colorado and working to try to find some way to find resources so that we can approach the opioid issue and the other drug issues that we have in town.
If I may,
Yes, go ahead.
that, Mayor, Jeremy, there are 2 med vans that are being utilized in Los Angeles County now as we speak. Medical assisted treatment vans that are available to the community members. One is positioned at the health department, the other one's gonna be, I believe, at the county fairgrounds, or a location to be determined. Salute is also going to be working with the medical assistant treatments. Also with that, and working with Judge Greibach and our courts and our probation department, the Partnership for a Drug-Free Community is on the next step, the next level, to become a nonprofit, to raise funding so we can also utilize their services to help assist the opiates, the drug addiction in our community, and the revolving door of our drug addicts and going in and out of jail. So there's a lot of programs in place. We just have to get them utilized and get the word out there. And also, to help get the word out there, I think we need to embrace the community members that are addicted to these drugs and the opiates. And instead of frowning upon them and looking down on them, we need to embrace them and say, we're here to help you. We're here to help you help yourself. Or else we're not gonna change this book. It's gonna be the same story over and over again. People are gonna be ashamed to go to these locations where they can get help, where they know they need help, but it's not a crime to be an addict. So we can turn that frown upside down, assist them, and also we're still looking for more funding for the Partnership for a Drug-Free Community.
And just to let you know, we have a lobbyist, and Mike and I actually have a conference meeting with her, conference call tomorrow with her, but we had one on Monday. And that was amongst those 400 bills that I was telling you about earlier. But she narrows it down for us. And I noticed in that list, there were probably 3 or 4 bills concerning opioids that the legislature is going to be considering funding. So I'm not sure if they're going to be, hopefully they're funded. Hopefully they're not an unfunded mandate. But there's so much concern across the state of Colorado and the state legislature and even the governor about the opioid and drug addiction that over the last couple of years, it just seems like there's so much focus on it that they're intent on trying to do something with this. Yes, sir.
Phil, does anybody have an idea roughly, not 1, 2, 3, but a rough idea? What are the numbers of homeless in the city and the county that we're dealing with? What are these numbers? How many people is it?
I'm not sure if I know that.
Just rough.
I'm gonna say that it sounds like a lot for our community, somewhere in that 20 to 30 range, from what I understand. It looks like, because of where they're at all the time.
Okay.
So it makes it look like there's quite a few. There may be more. Last year, council had authorized an organization to come in and do a study
Right.
of, the homeless. And I think those were some of the numbers that I think they gave us. We're in that 20-some range.
Actually, when I tested that, there were 63 people that were surveyed.
Surveyed?
At the
In the vulnerability index survey.
No, they were all over
The school of Denver.
And it
Were they-
wasn't a complete list of people that day.
It was just what we could get that day. It was 63 people. We anticipated to get 50, and we got more than that.
How many people did you have taking the survey?
We had 63 people who took the survey.
How many people did you have, asking those 63 people?
It was a
questions?
DU survey. They did
So were there
the
5 people taking
You
surveys?
mean
around?
giving,
Yeah,
like,
were
as
there
proctor?
2, 5, how many people
There was
were?
probably about 7 to 10 people that were administering the survey throughout
Okay.
various parts in town.
And over how long of a time period?
3 days.
Okay, so for how long each day?
It varied. We,
Okay,
so about an 8-hour day.
You can take all these facts and run statistics to see, okay, you looked at about 20% of the homeless people?
We don't know because there was a large area that people got pushed away, so we missed out on some people.
Correct. The geographic mapping of the people while you were taking it wasn't there.
That
to
is,
support.
well, there's a lot of information still that is in the packet from the VI SPDAT, which is the long.
The other thing that I don't remember, when they did that survey, if it was spring, summer, fall, I don't remember when that occurred, but that would have probably affected the numbers as well.
And Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, some of that data you might be asking for could come from the Department of Human Services. Normally, about 80% of our homeless population are on some sort of food assistance programs that goes directly to the Department of Human Services, which goes to Los Angeles County. We will meet on the 18th of February with the Department of Human Services Acting Board. That'd be a good place to come. Our meeting at 9 o'clock, and you can direct those questions. We are in changeover with a new director at this time, but we can probably get those numbers for you. Problem it fluctuates is because exactly summertime versus wintertime, they leave the area and they reapply in other states, and then we lose the record of that. But that would be a good angle to look at some of those numbers for you.
I think you might be misunderstanding what statistics I'm actually after. I was just assessing that time frame for when Carlos had that. I mean, I was so appreciative that they were doing it. I mean, I was on Facebook being like, oh my gosh, people are out of town and they're doing surveys, yay. Like, that was really cool for me. As for how many people there were in town that day, it's not like here you can say, here, are you homeless? Hold a card. And don't lose it. Let me count you. That's a very difficult process. Some people don't like to be confronted, so if they see people with paper and pens, they go. So it's just really hard to get a large demographic of people that you're surveying. You're surveying the ones that'll speak to you, not the ones that won't speak to you.
We do know that, like I said, there's that homeless issue, and how we approach that and what we need to do going forward is going to be something else with, like I said, I think that we're going to have to confront. Other questions? Tom?
I want to pick on Mr. Matei because he's here the longest. Mr. Matei, if somebody came to you on the street and found out that you're a lifelong resident and said you're on council, tell us a little bit about the past. I mean, your time on council, what you've accomplished, the past, the present, where are we going on in the future? Why should I move here? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but
No,
you can be very eloquent, but we got to limit
Well,
it.
my family has been here 4 generations. My kids make 5. They're not here. But my wife and I grew up in the coal camps, but we lived here that whole time. I was a resident of the city of Trinidad when we had model cities and just a ton of programs that were helpful to Trinidad's growth and prosperity. I was here when most people were working in fossil fuels at the coal mine, as was my dad and everyone in my family except me. And I was also here when we had a city manager for a very long period of time, Mr. Soltis. As I was trying to recollect, he was here at least 21 years and maybe more. I don't know. Okay, as I know that aside from Les Downs, he was probably one of the snappiest dressers I knew. And he had a really neat Chevy pickup, but that's beside the point. Thereafter, we've had kind of a train of city managers, interim and temporary and the like, and we're looking again. That was a significant difference. I think that for the longest time, Trinidad had kind of because we were substantial in our economy, given the mine, and then followed that by the gas wells, fossil fuels and such, which are now going away. But we tended to have kind of a proactive demeanor and attitude of life, and we were very accepting. And all the while, we were very courteous and family-oriented and community-spirited people. If you grew up in like Sopris and Aguilar and Honey and Primero, there was cohesiveness, there was unity in those communities, and the city of Trinidad shared that. But back to my point, we tended to be very reactive, and we just waited for something to fall into our laps. The mayor is modest when he says all that we're doing is because of proactive effort in the times that Phil has been the mayor. If we paid him a nickel for every mile he drove going to Denver to advocate on our behalf, we couldn't afford him. But the point being is we're putting ourselves out there. That same sergeant I was telling you about earlier said there's no luck. Luck is where preparation meets opportunity. And what we have been doing is to prepare ourselves so that when those episodes of opportunity like Fisher's Peak come our way, we recognize that. One of the things that we have grown to understand, in my opinion, is we need to make partnerships. On the city council that I'm on, when I went there, I got there as a result of a recall election. I was appointed to fill the vacancy. And when I got there, it was a divided council, 4-3, no matter what. That's just the way it was, and it was a given. And we worked hard to make partnerships with each other, to be decent about the way we treated each other. We built partnerships with management and our employees. We built partnerships between council and management. And we're building partnerships between city and county, partnerships between public and private. Dana Crawford and Jay Chimino, case in point. And what we're doing is we're taking those, we realize that we can't solve all of our own problems individually, and that we need to be friends with each other, as we're known to be. Ask anybody who's just moved here or been here a very short while, and one of the things they'll tell you about is how welcoming they believe the city of Trinidad is, as compared to maybe other areas. We are becoming teamwork personified in the things that we try and do with each other and with our collateral associates in making grant applications and developing programs and building boards and commissions and trying to do the things that we're trying to do. We are recognizing that the problems we have, homelessness, opioids, unemployment, all that kind of stuff, is not my problem. It's not your problem. It belongs to all of us. We all carry that burden, and we all have to work together to make that happen. It was painful for me to support marijuana. I've been behind a badge for 41 years. And I had arrested people. I interdicted carloads of marijuana and thousands of dollars concealed in glove compartments and such, when it was, and still is, a federal violation. But at the same time, I took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and the citizens of this community and the state of Colorado had voted to endorse marijuana as a lawful community, to be a lawful product, to be regulated significantly, and to be allowed with great regulation and judicious value. So that having been said, we generated a large amount of money to do the things that we never had a chance to do before, like fixing 36 miles of water line from the filter plant to the city of Trinidad. I grew up in Segundo. That water line ran right in front of my house. And there were times when city crews were up there fixing it. There were parts of it that for a long time were constructed out of wood. And that has now changed. But it's one of those things that just, we treaded water for so long that the current carried us backwards. And now we're finally getting some traction where we are able to draw on our resources, pull ourselves together, and speak out for ourselves. How many of you are of the opinion that Denver thinks the state of Colorado ends just south of Colorado Springs. That doesn't happen. They ignore Pueblo, Walsenburg, and Trinidad. And I've lived in Walsenburg and Trinidad my whole life. 2 years in Walsenburg. That was a fun time. But anyway, I guess the short answer to your question is I believe God lives here. Go out in the morning and breathe. Get a glass of our water. Or better still, go up there by the radio station, or the Holiday Inn's a good place, that CDOT parking lot in front of their sand shed, and look at the mountains. And you tell me God doesn't live here. All of that having been said, we have so much before us to make and to do with. We're the only city that has 2 state parks, separated by Starkville and Russ Palone's house. And he worked for the parks, so that ought to be helpful to some extent. Who else has 2 state parks? One with water and summertime stuff, another one with mountains. And no, we're not going to build a chairlift to the top and put a McDonald's. That's not happening, okay? I have said that, but that was just a funny. We've had growth in just our thinking. I'm happy to say that I think I suggested, much to the dismay of Mayor Riorda, that we should have computerized council packets. We used to get manila envelopes filled with paper. We were killing trees right and left. And whenever there was an amendment or an adjustment, the city police department made the rounds again, giving us new packets. Where now we have iPads, renovated, but what the heck, they work. And everybody gets the same stuff right now. It's real time. That's progress. Okay? We, for the longest time, I used to argue that we needed to do Trinidad, 100 years of tradition, unhampered by progress. That can't exist anymore. We have to recognize that tradition is also our history, and we need to protect and preserve that history. But at the same time, we need to grudgingly drag ourselves into the 21st century so that we can do things in a more competitive fashion, so that we can apply for those grants, so that we can gain the positive attention from those people who control the puppet strings in the Denver area, who control the purse strings. Having a friend on that JBC is a good place to be. Okay, and making them aware of what we're trying to do for ourselves. Look through some of the historical pictures. Go to the library sometime and look through the old pictures of Trinidad. I remember as a kid coming to Trinidad. You do too, Bob. We grew up the river. You came down here and you could spend the whole day. There were 7 car dealerships in Trinidad. If you needed to buy a refrigerator or a deep freeze, you had several options. Coast to Coast, Gamble's, Montgomery Ward. There were 2 sporting goods stores. As prom time came around, you could rent a tuxedo at 2 places. If you needed to buy men's clothing, there were 4 or 5 men's clothing stores. There were 3 shoe stores, and there were 4 pharmacies downtown. And it was a thriving community. And we parked on the outskirts, and my mother dragged me all over. And that's what we did, okay? Bought school clothes, the whole story. It was like growing up in a Norman Rockwell little town. And we want to keep that. But we want to embrace and absorb those new people who choose to come here to find retirement. But as the mayor pointed out, we need to be able to meet their health needs. As those younger families come, we need to be able to meet their children's educational needs. You know, and contrary to what you may read, the sky is not falling. We don't have an out-of-this-world crime rate. We have some issues that are aggravating. Those that get your attention and make you wonder why. Okay, well, we got to work together to solve some of those problems and help those people who are in need of our assistance. Okay, and I guess I ran out of gas. I've been making notes the whole time, and I think I talked about everything. Except Karen, but I won't do that.
May I add something to that, Mr. Murphy? I'm not asking you. Okay.
What do you want to know?
Every Tuesday night, this is what I follow. This gentleman with his on and on and on, but he makes me.
I was minding my own business. He asked me.
But anyway, one thing I have to say about Trinidad, I'm also 4th generation. what I have to say about Trinidad, for those of you that don't know a lot about our past, is I can't believe how resilient this small community is. I mean, if other communities would have gone through what Trinidad has gone through in the past 50, 60 years, the boom, bust, it's a miracle that we're still here. And unfortunately, the generation of my children don't feel that Trinidad is attractive to them anymore. So I'm more than thrilled to see people that are sitting out there that are not natives of Trinidad, because you have discovered this gem that we've known all of our lives, and we need your help.
Yes.
You know, we need your help. And also, kudos to the people of that generation that have decided to stay in Trinidad and improve Trinidad and make it even a more special place than it is right now. You know, there's no better name that they could have called Trinidad downtown than the Corazon de Trinidad, because this is the heart of this community. And it beats strong. I guarantee you it beats strong. Thank you.
I wanted to thank everyone for coming tonight, for the questions. I know we've had some pretty good discussion, but I thank you for that. And that's part of the reason why I recommended we do this. This is the third year that we do this. And it's good to see the number of people that are here. I have all of council here. We don't have one of them that's here with us. But it allows you, as the citizens of our community, to be able to engage with us so that you know what we are doing or what we're attempting to do and maybe where we've been. So again, I thank you for being here. Thank council for being here. Thank staff for all that you do for the city of Trinidad. And like I said, we'll do this again next year. So be careful going out all those icy streets.